Tom Bauer, I'm glad he's not my accountant, because, I mean, Tom, you know, he's a gifted biographer and all the rest of it, but Harry and Meghan are worth an absolute bomb. Yeah. So I don't think, even if they lost everything, and whether they deserve to, whatever the case, they've got a lot of money. So yes. I don't think there's a problem in that respect, JJ.
Yeah, they've got shed loads. Tom Bauer is clearly a man who just hates Meghan Markle. That's it.
Yeah.
I won't go as far as to call him a misogynist, because he's not mean to all women, just Meghan Markle. He knows clearly nothing about Hollywood. Stick to the royals, Tom, because you know nothing about how Hollywood works. Just because she signed to a new agency, he thinks, well, she should be working straight away. It's not how it works. Yeah. The biggest players in Hollywood do not work continually flat out, non-stop. Actually, it's the people who are less successful who are trudging and trawling, trying to get everything they can. I'll just very quickly tell you a story. The most successful director of our time, Martin Scorsese, teams up with the most successful actor of our time, Leonardo DiCaprio. For The Wolf of Wall Street, one of the most successful biographies in history, they couldn't find any financing. Have you got the world's greatest director and the world's greatest actor in Hollywood? Nobody wants to fund their films. That's how Hollywood is. So if he thinks that they're unsuccessful because they've been paid a shed load of money from Netflix and Spotify, and Netflix have already said it's still the most successful documentary they've ever had on the platform, but they're not successful. He's an absolute idiot. I mean, get in the bin.
A man who's made a name for himself on sensationalism, speculation, and sanctimonious rage, Tom Bauer, finally met someone who refused to play the game by his rules. JJ Anisiobi didn't raise his voice, didn't pull cheap tricks or quote tabloid headlines. He came in with facts, presence, and the quiet fury of a man who's had enough of the smear campaign dressed up as royal commentary. While Bauer leaned back in his usual smug posture, ready to deliver another dose of contempt for Harry and Meghan, JJ simply cut through the noise. And what he said was devastating in its clarity. Tom, you may know the royal family, or at least pretend to. But when it comes to Hollywood, when it comes to the entertainment industry, when it comes to the world Meghan Markle actually lives and thrives in, you are clueless. Stick to Windsor, leave LA alone, because you don't know what you're talking about. And in that moment, you could see the air drain out of Bauer's face. Not that he would ever admit it, but his authority took a hit. The myth of the all-knowing biographer, the man who peddles conjecture as truth and opinion as gospel, was cracked wide open by a voice that refused to be intimidated. JJ Anisiobi did what so many people have been begging someone, anyone, to do: confront these pundits not with rage, not with trolling, but with the kind of truth that makes them look small. Because that's exactly what Bauer is when stripped of his headlines and hysteria. A small man standing in the shadow of a woman he's made a career out of hating. Meghan Sussex is a force he can't understand, so instead of trying to learn, he writes hit pieces. Instead of evolving, he regresses into bitterness. And JJ called it out, not just as dishonest, but as irrelevant. This wasn't just about Hollywood or royal gossip. This was about expertise. Tom Bauer has spent years cultivating an image as an insider, someone with sources, with access, with the kind of insider knowledge that turns a book into a bestseller. But JJ Anisiobi reminded the world that having access to palace courtiers and disgruntled royal aides doesn't make you an expert on streaming deals, media branding, or how a global icon like Meghan Sussex builds influence in America. Meghan isn't just another royal spouse. She's an actress, a producer, a speaker, a woman who navigates both the red carpet and the boardroom. And Tom Bauer, from his little perch in the UK media ecosystem, doesn't have the range to critique her journey. Because, honestly, he doesn't understand the world she lives in. He doesn't understand Netflix strategy, brand positioning, or the quiet power of being selectively visible. He doesn't get that Meghan's impact isn't measured in tabloid headlines, but in partnerships, projects, and how deeply she resonates with audiences far beyond Britain. That's what made JJ's takedown so brilliant. He wasn't just defending Meghan and Harry from another smear, he was defending intellectual honesty. Because the British media has this habit of parading people like Bauer as experts, when in reality they're recycling gossip in posh accents. They drag Meghan for not being at every awards show, then accuse her of being too visible when she is present. They sneer at her business moves, but honestly, wouldn't know a production slate if it hit them in the face. JJ calmly dismantled that narrative by reminding everyone, if you're going to critique Meghan's Hollywood journey, you better know something about Hollywood. And Tom Bower? He's still stuck on royal protocols and PR briefings. He knows how to spin a palace feud into a book deal, but he doesn't understand that in Meghan's world, real value is measured in creative freedom, not royal titles. And let's be clear, Tom Bower wants Meghan to fail. He needs her to, because without her, his anti-Sussex brand loses relevance. The books dry up, the TV appearances fade. That's why every time Meghan signs a new deal, partners with a new platform, or speaks to a new audience, he ramps up the attacks. But that's also why JJ's statement landed like a hammer. It exposed the desperation. JJ wasn't angry. He was accurate. He called out the hollowness of the commentary, the glaring absence of real understanding behind the critiques. And for a moment, the show stopped being about royal gossip and became something deeper, a reckoning. It was also a reminder that people are paying attention, that the public isn't as easily fooled as the Daily Mail hopes. JJ stood in that studio as a black British man calling out the gatekeeping, the bias, and the arrogance of white commentators who think they own the narrative. He didn't just challenge Bower, he disrupted a system that's been rigged for decades. A system where Meghan is always wrong, Harry is always weak, and the monarchy is always blameless. JJ tore through that illusion with one simple idea. Maybe you're not the authority you think you are. Maybe you're just another man with a microphone and an agenda. And of course, Bower tried to squirm his way out of it. He deflected. He changed the subject. He pivoted to something about Netflix ratings, as if cherry-picking data could undo Meghan's cultural impact. But JJ didn't let him off the hook. He stood his ground. Because when someone like Bower tries to reduce Meghan's journey to failure, he's not just attacking her, he's trying to send a message. That anyone who leaves the firm, who breaks from the system, will be punished. That anyone who dares to thrive outside the palace walls is fair game. And JJ said no. Not today. Not on his watch. It's amazing how much power one moment of truth can hold. That brief exchange between JJ Anisiobi and Tom Bower was more than a media spat. It was a cultural reset. It reminded us that the people who scream the loudest often have the least to say. That expertise isn't measured in column inches, but in actual understanding. And that maybe, just maybe, it's time to stop giving airtime to men who've built careers on tearing down women they can't control. Because here's the reality. Meghan and Harry are not coming back to the UK to be anyone's scapegoat. They've built something stronger than a royal title, an identity rooted in purpose, values, and authenticity. And no amount of huffing and puffing from Bower or his ilk is going to change that. Meghan's influence will continue to grow, not because she plays by the media's rules, but because she doesn't. And Harry, by her side, is no longer the spare. He's a man who chose freedom over formality. And that's exactly what scares people like Tom Bower the most. So, we owe JJ Anisiobi a thank you for speaking truth to nonsense, for standing firm in the face of pompous misinformation, and for showing the world that the smear machine isn't as bulletproof as it pretends to be. In just a few words, he did what entire teams of PR strategists have failed to do. He made the noise stop, even if just for a moment. And in that silence, you could hear the truth ring louder than ever. Meghan and Harry are thriving. And Tom Bower? He's stuck in the past, yelling into an echo chamber that's getting smaller by the day.